Welcome to Atomic Day's audiobook. Sit back and relax as you listen to the first chapter of the book A Weakness Called Love, The Memoirs of an African Housemaid, written by Glamti and narrated by Atomic Day. Chapter 9. It has been 2 weeks. I had properly recuperated. It was time to face my parents. Hajia, my mother, gave me the lecture this time. Laddie, she says, you know we have to raise money for your marriage one way or the other. Since you cannot stay in the city and work like every responsible girl, we have decided you are going to be selling food. We shall buy a clay bank and save the money earnestly. From tomorrow, you'll be selling rice and beans. And if you can raise enough money, spaghetti, she added. Okay, I said. It was settled. I will hawk to raise money for my marriage. It was okay by me as long as Moody will be the handsome groom. My mother cooked the food and put it in a bucket while I carried a tray with plates, spoons, oil, pepper, salt, chopped lettuce and diced tomatoes on my head. I was off to the most crowded place in our village, the market. I met Hajara when I reached there. She was also selling peanuts and tofu. There was something different about Hajara. I'm not talking about her well-structured butt or her fully developed cleavage. No, her character. Something about her was different. She was bolder, lacks any trace of coyness. She mingles with men freely and flirts as she pleases. They do not make her uncomfortable. Rather, the reverse was the case. She behaves like a promiscuous bitch. She now possesses the skills of seduction and has the aura of a temptress. Nobody will have seen that coming. Hajara is the daughter of a man of great integrity, Malam Sadi, who is known for keeping his word no matter what. His words were gold. She doesn't call most of the men by name. No, one was husband, the other was handsome. I even heard her call someone stylish guy. She reserved her love for some guy she clearly is in love with. The man was one of those guys that is very stylish, fashionable and classy. He always wears those ready-made clothes. He even cuts his trousers at knee level, his shirt always hugging him tightly, his unshaved hair adding to his lovely auburn manliness. He swings his arms vigorously as he strides, puffing off tobacco smoke everywhere he goes. People like calling him nigger because of his auburn poise. He has a deep, loud voice, although his speech was slurred, a true auburn champ. He's so cool that before he makes an appearance, music is heard from his expensive loud phone. It is said the phone was even made in China, a town that is said to be the end of the world. When he rode the bus, he doesn't wait for the driver to stop before he hops off. He doesn't have a specific job. When a bus conductor is indisposed, he steps in. I had been selling food for a week now. The change in Hajara never ceases to amaze me. I met Moody there, but our conversation never passed a formal greeting. I wanted more from him. I wanted an ardent declaration of love. Then one of the days Hajara overstepped her boundaries, she called Moody honey. I was flabbergasted. How dare she? I lost my temper and pulled her aside, not bothering to hide my rage. What the hell was that about, you skunk? What are you trying to do? Don't ever go near Moody again. I warn you, or you will live to regret it. All the other men you've been whoring around are not enough for you. You had to get my Moody. Just then I realized what I said. I just called Moody mine. We were not even in a relationship, but I've been mentally dating him. Perhaps I'm not entitled to my claim. I just hoped she hadn't heard that. I was wrong. She heard me loud and clear. In fact, it was as if it was the only thing she heard. You're Moody, she said, puzzled. Are you in a relationship with Moody? She asked. Oh my God, you rascal, she added, her lips forming a smile. No, you don't understand. I'm not exactly in a relationship with him yet. It's just that he's different and you should not drag him into your games, I murmured. She just laughed and she said, you like him, don't you? Yes, I simply replied. Come on, she said. What are you doing? I asked. You'll see, was her reply. She walked confidently to Moody and said, Moody, my honey, look at Laddie. Isn't she beautiful? Isn't she lovely? She asked, taking him by surprise. He hesitated and then he spoke. Yes, I guess. No, you know Moody. Such young-spirited fresh girl. She thinks you are beautiful. I felt very shy. She said, Laddie, you can go. Moody and I have to discuss a very important topic. I walked away from them, but I could hear every word. Hajara continued, what's the problem? Are you scared of your little wife? I'm not asking you to marry her. You can be lovebirds and see where it goes. Scared of a little adventure. I never took you for the boring guy. Come on, my honey, make a move, she said. Hajara, he said, laughing, you know I'm married. I know, but a man is a husband to 4 wives. I'll stop calling you my honey and following you around if you make a move. I will let her know you said you liked her and that you are eager to start a relationship with her, she said and winked at him. She did not wait for a reply, she just started walking away laughing. To my surprise, he did not stop her, he just smiled. She grabbed my arm and said, "Now you are in a relationship with Moody. He is no longer my honey. He is all yours," she said. I was short of words. I did not know what to say. I wanted to thank Hajara, but there was no words in my vocabulary that can express my gratitude. There I felt all the happiness I've never felt in my entire existence. It was exhilarating. Hajara interrupted me from my thoughts and asked, "What's wrong?" It was then I realized my eyes were wet, and for the first time in my mortal life, tears of joy were rolling down my cheeks. I squeezed my eyes shut to get composed, and then I said, "Nothing, I'm just really happy. Thank you, Hajara." That was all I could say. "No problem," she replied. The next day, I sent a boy with a full plate of rice and beans with salad garnished with fresh tomatoes to Moody as a token of my love and our newfound relationship. He accepted my gift, so was the day after that. He actually liked it. It happens Moody loves food and I sell food. We were a great match. Then instead of giving the boy the plate to bring back, he came back with the empty plate with alluring eyes. He wore a quizzical expression on his face. My nose engulfed his scent, the sweet scent of soap and oil perfume, and he said, "Laddie, I really like you. You have injected me with the medication of your love. You have shot me with a spear of love that has penetrated my fragile heart." I was in cloud nine. I replied promptly, "You are a thief, Moody, for you have stolen my heart. My heart runs on your love. In your love, Moody, I have lost myself. I only remember you." Batting my eyelashes, I looked up at him and continued, "Would someone ripped my veins open, you will see yourself running in my bloodstream." I looked down at the floor, smiling. That day marked the beginning of my relationship with Moody. For every day I reserved a plate for him. He ate by my side while we talked. Aside from the market, Moody and I never talked elsewhere, but I felt the time was too small. It will be nice to go to a place more quiet for a change, yet I did not say anything. I kept it to myself, but Hamza, Moody's friend, does not share in our newfound joy. Often he casts me a venomous look. He hates me. You can see it in his eyes. He even had the nerve to tell me that I was just a source of lunch for Moody. Nothing more, and that was all I will ever be. Some people are just bitter and hate seeing other people happy. That is how Hamza is. Yet Moody continued to court me, and I was happy. People in the market have started to notice Moody's new pattern of behavior, which is talking to me almost every day while we both smile and enjoy ourselves. But no one dared say a word. Moody was a man who commanded respect. Besides, nobody wanted to be tainted as slanderer and backbiter. Hajara, on the other hand, continued enjoying herself with her nigger, but her happiness was short-lived. It is a small town. People had started talking about her new behavior. Word had gotten to her father about her waywardness. He was enraged and had vowed to take care of things. He said he will not live to see a daughter of his sully his good name. Today Hajara was absent from the market. I was worried about her. When I get back home, I will check on her. When I went home, I had the surprise of my life. Asaba rushed to me and started her normal rambling. Then she said something that got my attention. "Do you know Shatu is back?" The stupid girl had been sent back home because she had been a nuisance, and the woman said she cannot take it anymore. She befriended her mother-in-law and sister-in-law. The woman said they were conspiring against her. She slapped her only a couple of times before sending her away. This must be my month of divine blessing. First Moody, then my comrade Shatu is back. I forgot all about Hajara and said, "Asabe, if my mother asks, I will be at Shatu's." I said, putting the tray on the floor. Then I rushed out, almost running. There was so much I wanted to tell her. A lot had happened. When I got to her home, I greeted her mother. Before I even asked, she yelled, "Shatu, Laddie is here." In a minute, she was in front of me. We went outside the room and started talking. She told me about her experiences and why she was sent back. I filled her in about what had happened after she had left. She was so proud of me when I told her about my new relationship with Moody, but I complained about only being able to talk to Moody at the market. She promised to solve the issue. It was only then that I remembered Hajara. I had completely forgotten about her. We promised to check out on her later, but not before we went to see Moody first. She grabbed her veil and yelled, "Mother, I'll be at Hafsat's house." We left and were on our way to the residence of my love. We reached there. As usual, Hafsat greeted us warmly. Then Shatu asked, "Is Yaya Moody around? I want to greet him." Of course, Hafsat replied and went to call him. He was with one of his brothers outside talking. He came and we greeted him. All the while, I kept glancing at him. When our eyes met and I was sure Hafsat was not looking my way, I winked at him. The surprised expression he had on his face made my day. Then Shetu said, "Hafsat, please do you have cold water? I'm really thirsty. My mom forgot to fill our clay pot. We're out of cold water. Let me get it for you," she said happily. "What about you, laddie? Would you like anything?" she said, looking at me. "No, I'm okay, thanks," I said, forcing a smile. When she left, I said to Moody, "We'll be waiting for you outside." She came back with a cup of water. Shetu drank the water. I knew she wasn't thirsty. When I saw her gulp the water, I respected her more. "We have to go," she said to Hafsat. Hafsat there replied, "But you just got here. We haven't even talked." Shetu promised her she will come back and told her mother sent us on an errand, and as such we had to hurry. She even said we were about to pass by her house, and she thought it would be wrong to pass by the house without entering. We were out of the house. We found a nice spot under a mango tree at a safe distance. Then we saw Moody came out. I called out, waving my hand. He saw me and he walked towards us. When he came, Shetu took her leave, but I told her to wait for me at a distance. I reminded her we had to visit Hajara. Then I started talking in the most sexy voice I can muster. "Masui, how are you?" He smirked as his beautiful lashes fluttered. "I'm fine, my love. What are you doing here?" "I came for you. I missed you. You know my heart and yours are friends to each other. Even in sleep, they remain entwined," I said, locking my left and right index fingers together as I pouted. He seemed pleased because his eyes gleamed. He smiled his beautiful smile, showing his perfectly white teeth. Then Shetu shouted, "We don't have all day, laddie. Let's move." "I'll see you later," I said. We were off to our next stop, Hajara's house. Hajara was in the room. Her eyes were swollen. She had been crying. When we asked her what was wrong, she replied, "My father happened." Those good-for-nothing gossipers had been slandering me. My father was upset. He said he will get me married in 2 weeks, that he will go out and the first person he saw will be my future husband. He went out, he met Isiaku. He asked Isiaku whether he's interested in me. You know how Isiaku respects my father. He said he was. Now preparations for my marriage are on their way. But I told my father, I will never be a victim of a forced marriage. I talked back at him for the first time. "What did he say?" Shetu asked. That he would not dignify my stupidity with a reply. My mother tried talking to him, but he did not listen. I told my mother that if my father did not call off the marriage, I would kill myself. I would jump into a well and kill myself. He should either call off the marriage or marry me to my nigger. My mother informed him and he came to me. He asked whether I said I will kill myself, to which I nodded. Do you know what he said after that? He said, "I understand you want to kill yourself if I proceed with the wedding. It is very unfortunate. I had already given my word to Isiaku and his parents about the wedding. My word is my honor. I will ask you one last favor, dear child. Do your father a favor. When you are set on committing suicide, use the well in my house. It will make the burial easy, and I can locate your body without any trouble. It's for your own sake. Imagine your body being lost, and you'll never be buried properly. No prayer will be said for you, neither will you be washed nor shrouded." That was what he said. My mother cried and pleaded, but he refused us. She said, her voice cracking, her eyes swam with tears, "God forbid forced marriage. We shall all marry for love. Why will we let people destroy our lives? Don't ever agree to marry Isiaku. We must find a way to stop this madness," I said. "But I have to ask you something, Hajara. When you came back home, you became a little different. I loved the change and the confidence. You behaved like a true worthy woman. I don't understand why your father will disapprove. You became more desirable. Is it not an asset to be desired by men? Haters are always jealous of a thriving woman. What your father is doing is not right. How did you manage to change?" I finally asked. She replied, "Laddie, life experiences mold us into who we are. I had been through a lot. I had been exposed to temptation. I fought temptation until I finally yielded." She paused. "The city is full of temptations. Let's save the story for another day. I may teach you a thing or two." She concluded this time, her eyes sparkled. "Just pray that my father doesn't continue with this madness, because if he does, I will kill myself."
Girl, you're so hot like summer, and I don't wonder what that lover. You give me feels when you do, no one can do it like you.
We have come to the end of today's chapter. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Khadija Nasser and at Atomic D on Twitter, and subscribe to my podcast and YouTube channels at Atomic D. And also don't forget to hit the notification button so that you will be informed whenever I post a new chapter. Thank you for listening, and bye ta! Love ya!
And I